What's up, crew? This is William here, coming at you from Westerlund.com, and welcome to this crash course in metabolic adaptation. Okay, so I was browsing the web and on YouTube, and I was looking at different YouTube channels that tried to explain the concept and such, but I couldn't really find any good video that explained the concept in just a couple of minutes and had, summarized all the practical action steps which you can take to prevent this. So the purpose of this video is to give you exactly that, a brief summary about the concept and what you can do about it. So let's get into it. Okay, so during weight loss, two things happen. The first is that we impose a caloric deficit, either by decreasing our caloric intake or by exercising more. And the second thing is that we start to lose body mass. Hopefully we lose fat, but we can also lose some muscle as well. And these are two indicators that our energy supply is low and therefore our body adapts accordingly. So the body adapts by doing, you can summarize it in three things. The first thing is that it increases our mitochondrial efficiency, and basically what that means is that it takes less calories burned to produce the same amount of ATP. The second thing is the decreased BMR, or basal metabolic rate, and that's the most interesting thing we will be looking at in this video. And the third thing is just fucked up hormones basically. And typically we get elevations in hormones that promote catabolism and hunger, and we get decreased hormones that promote anabolism, energy expenditure, and satiety, or hunger. So, needless to say, these three factors directly oppose your fat loss or weight loss goals. So besides having a hard time, retaining muscle, you get tired, a general worse mood state and hunger. The fact that your BMR also decreases during time is really what causes like a lot of harm and a lot of troubles when people are trying to diet. So take for example your typical mom's friend or whatever that's gonna start like a new diet, and for a couple of weeks she loses like a lot of fat in the beginning, but then it all like eventually stagnates, and then she gives up pretty much and she goes back to her previous caloric intake, and then boom, she gets like super fat all over again. So we're gonna be looking at that in the two next coming graphs here, so we're gonna explain it for you like really easily. Okay, so lastly, I think I want to add before we move on to the graphs, it's that these adaptations, or the magnitude of these adaptations, are directly related to the size of the energy deficit, since this signifies a more urgent energy crisis. Hence, practicing a proper cutting strategy will minimize these effects. Okay, so first up, we're gonna look how average Joe do when he decides he wants to go on a cutting phase. So the black line here is going to be our BMR, or basal metabolic rate, how much we burn. The fat percentage is just going to be fat, and the red is going to be the caloric intake. So usually when a regular person decides to go on a cut, they eat this amount of calories, and then boom, dropping 5 or 6, 7, 800, 1000 calories, and decides to go on the cut. And they stay there for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and then they go right back up to the previous caloric set point. Stay there for a couple of weeks or months before they decide to do another cut, and then they go all the way down again. And then they stay here for a couple of weeks, months, notice that they don't lose as much as last time, so they even drop it a little bit further for this example, and then just go out like this. Okay, so we're gonna start to look at the metabolic rate, what actually happens when we do like this. And as you can remember from the previous whiteboard slide, or whatever you want to call it, is that our BMR decreases as our body adapts. So starting out, the BMR is of course going to be like on the same here, around, and then decide to do a cut. So we're going to have a big disconnect or difference here in the beginning. So we're gonna lose a lot of fat here in the beginning, but then eventually the gap is going to disconnect, is going to be lower and lower. So this is gonna go around like this, for example. And then when this hits, do you see the disconnect here? That's like a plus calorie thing, I don't know, 800, 900 calories is just above the basal metabolic rate. So this is gonna of course spike the fat gain, we're just gonna look at later. And what happens to the BMR is that the BMR isn't gonna have all the time to recover, because it takes a lot more time for our metabolic rate to recover than it does for our fat, which we're gonna see. So then he initiates his second cut, and then this goes down like here again. And you see the disconnect here is gonna be much lower than it was up here. So we're gonna lose like a lot less fat, as we said before. So then he tries to do like another cut here, and yeah, this pretty much goes like this. So if we look at the fat, let's assume he starts out at the set point around here. So this is gonna go like this, and then he starts to cut. So he's gonna lose a lot of fat in the beginning, as we looked here before, and this is gonna go pretty similar to his BMR. But then when this hits the fat, he's gonna gain so much more fat than his BMR is gonna recover. So this is gonna go like this. This might even exceed his previous, like this, and then this goes down. But you see the disconnect is a lot smaller than here. So this is gonna go as steep here, so it's probably gonna go like this or something. And then all of a sudden you see here, the disconnect here, between his BMR now and his fat, and where he was at the set point. So this is also what's called like metabolic damage, or you fuck up your metabolic rate, metabolic set point. So you don't want to do this, obviously. So I'm gonna show you to do like a proper diet without messing up your metabolic rate, and also how to recover after. And that's what's called a reverse diet, which we're also gonna look at in the next video. But first, we're just gonna look at the cut season. Okay guys, so next up we have Shredded Steven. And Steven is not only shredded but also very smart. So Shredded Steven, he starts out around about here with his caloric intake. And over time, over as his cut progresses, he will lower his caloric intake until he reaches his fat goal or whatever goal or whatever. And then he will slowly reintroduce his calories back up again. And this half here is what's called a reverse diet, which we'll look at in the next video. But for this video, we'll only be focusing on the cut side of this phase, so to speak. So if we look at Shredded Steven's BMR and then compare it to Average Joe, we will see that his BMR slowly will pretty much follow his caloric intake all the way down here. And also when he raises his caloric intake again, maybe this will go like this, this will also follow pretty naturally. So you don't get that huge disconnect, that huge, fat spike, or so you can pretty much go like this all the way up. You can even get your metabolic rate higher than it was before and set yourself up for a more successive next cut, so to speak. So looking at the fat here, we can also see that maybe he will make the dramatic first few weeks fat loss thing that Average Joe will, but he will get like a steady progressive fat loss over these couple of weeks or couple of months, like all the way down here. And also, this is the interesting part, because since the disconnect is so low here between the caloric intake and the BMR, or the metabolic rate, his fat gains will be minimal. Of course he will gain some fat, but probably will be like something like this. Okay, so you see that? So also, look at this and compare it to his next cut also. And if you skip back to the video and compare it to Average Joe, he really sets himself up for success. So for this video, we're gonna look at this part here. How do you actually do this? How much do you lower your caloric intake? How often and how much? So yeah, I will just give you some practical thumb rules, because obviously there is no law to follow. But this is how I personally do it, and I see a lot of other people do it. So let's get into it. Okay crew, so looking at the cutting phase here, good rules of thumbs to practice is that to every 10 to 14 days you generally want to lower your calories by 100 to 200. It's very important to keep track of your weight during this time so you can adapt, because you don't want to drop too sudden. And also, if you notice after 7 or 8 days that you're just stagnating, you ain't dropping anything, it's probably time to lower the calories a little bit more. And in addition to this, you want to keep your protein high and even raise it a little bit the further down you go here. And also introduce cardio if needed during it. So if we just map it out like every 2 weeks here, it could be like this. So if you start at 2,900, you go 2,700, 2,500, yeah, and how far you want to go. Of course, you don't want to go too low on this, because then you will feel the effects from metabolic adaptation and metabolic damage even more. But depending if you're cutting for a competition or just doing it for the summer, you can pretty much lay out how serious you want to go, or how serious you want to get. Yeah, so this was the metabolic damage video. In the next video, we'll be looking at the reverse diet, how you actually go from here to up here, and how much you should raise every week, and yeah, if you're gonna raise carbs, fats, proteins, whatever. So yeah, stay tuned for the next video.